after we got married. John canceled our wedding party at the last minute, citing work as the reason. I was feeling uneasy about it when I got a call from Iris. She said John's name was on the list of clients getting married today. Skeptical. I rushed over and was shocked to see John exchanging vows with some unknown woman in the chapel. They moved to the main building to hold the reception. I overheard their conversation through a slightly open door of the waiting room. Luckily, I wonder if it was okay to cancel the party with Emily. Showing off a bride like that old hag would probably get us booed by the guests. Come on, John, you married her because you love her, right? No way. She's just a tasteless country bumpkin. The only one I love is Isabella. Furious, I immediately called my father. Soon after, he arrived with our relatives and we stormed into the reception. Hurry up, it's already started. You better brace yourselves. I'm going to turn your blissful world upside down soon. I'm Emily, a 42-year-old. I recently married John and now I'm working full-time while managing the household. I lost my mother to illness when I was young, so my father, who runs a real estate business, raised me with great care. I grew up adored by relatives we'd meet at family events. Upon graduating from college, I moved to the city and started living alone, thinking I'd become too dependent if I stayed with my father forever. However, our home is just an hour's drive away, so I visit easily during long weekends. My father's past his 60s, and I wanted to get married to give him some peace of mind. That's when I met John, who had come from the headquarters to help with work. John, a native of this town, had a stylish and sophisticated air about him. He was smart in his actions, good at his job, and fun to talk to. I was attracted to him and thrilled when he said, "I wanted to date you with the intention of getting married." So we started dating. Eventually, he proposed to me, and I happily accepted the engagement ring. My father was overjoyed when I told him over the phone. It was then decided to introduce John to my father. Little did I know of the turmoil that was to come. My father greeted John with a big smile. "Welcome. You're just as wonderful as my daughter said." "Thank you." My father warm and personable, and John lively and a great conversationalist. I was relieved to see the two of them getting along, chatting enthusiastically about sports. I was glad they were getting along so well. But then, leaving my house in a happy mood and heading back to the city, I was taken aback by John's words as he looked out the window. "Man, there's really nothing around here. I can't believe you lived in such a place." That's driving. I was momentarily at a loss for words. Sure, around here it's mostly fruit orchards and houses. It's a boring view compared to the city where John grew up. But I didn't like him talking like that. I swallowed my complaint and forced a smile. It's peaceful scenery. The starry sky is beautiful here, and it's nice and quiet. Just cross the river and there's supermarkets and stores. I thought I smelled something. There were cows just back there. The smell might stick to my clothes. Gotta wash them as soon as we get home. John continued in a mocking tone. Emily's place was unnecessarily large, huh? Still like single-story house, totally countryside vibe. See, where I'm from in the city, we have small parking and yards. I'm envious. Being from the city makes you better. I felt disgruntled but didn't want to start a fight so early in our marriage. Just typical city folk thoughts. I told myself that and tried to suppress my irritation. A month later, we were invited to John's parents' house. John's parents, stylish as expected, gave off a cold vibe, similar to their stylish 3-story house. It was uncomfortable how they scrutinized me, assessing my appearance. Hearing about my hometown from John, my mother-in-law sneered. "Your mother passed away from an illness. No parents together, huh? Well, it's better than them being divorced." So they would have opposed the marriage if my parents were divorced. An outdated notion that displeased me. Emily is from a really rural area, but she's a big landowner. Her dad runs a real estate company. At John's words, my in-laws leaned in with interest. Rent tax of Tiampli, running a company? The whole neighborhood is practically Emily's family land. Oh, that's impressive. My in-laws exchanged looks and smirked. Take good care of John. Really? Yes, of course. Their sudden friendliness was met with my polite yet strained smile. That's on the way home. John, gripping the steering wheel, puffed up his chest. My dad works at the big company. I'm Motors at the headquarters as a manager. And Mom's a homemaker. No need for her to work outside. That's impressive. I was a bit disappointed seeing John talk about my family's land as if it were his own achievement. He seemed childish. But that didn't mean my love for him had faded. After dinner with both families, we got married. watching a chapel or a garden at a prestigious hotel, both options offering an elegant ceremony. Having trouble narrowing down the options, I decided to take my time looking for the perfect venue. John was understanding, so I took my time to research and think things over, gathering information from the internet and conversations with married friends. However, when I finally leaned towards a garden and brought it up to John, he vehemently opposed it. I wanted to chapel, a ceremony in the chapel, and the reception in the main building. But you said before that you'd leave it all up to me, right? Well, I changed my mind after talking to some friends. John's response was oddly hesitant. It confused. I watched a promotional video on his phone. Look at this place. Isn't it great? A hall adorned with colorful flowers, where the bride and groom smiled happily. It is lovely, but great. It settled then. Let's go with this one. John quickly called the venue and arranged a viewing. At the venue viewing, we attended together. John listened intently to the discussions about the ceremony and reception, asking the staff detailed questions. I was both surprised and filled with happiness at his earnest involvement. It was surprising to see him so enthusiastic, considering he usually doesn't show much interest in events like this. I felt warm inside, thinking he was looking forward to our wedding party. But his enthusiasm waned after the venue visit. When it came to choosing the dress, wedding rings, and planning the party, he started dragging his feet, citing his busy work schedule. Choose the dress you like. Where's Emily? Everything looks good on you. His indifferent attitude disappointed me. It's not about that. John, I want you to see it. You always buy stylish clothes, right? I rely on your good taste. Thanks, but I want to be surprised on the day. It's normal for the husband to come along, you know. John got annoyed at my words. Can't help it. I have business trips on weekends. Complained to my boss, not me. His mood soured whenever I mentioned his busyness. I've already sorted the guest list and sent out the invites. Isn't that enough? I ordered the rings we saw on my phone. We'll pick them up soon. His words, seemingly spoken out of obligation, saddened me, but I didn't want to argue further. Should make sure you come to the next meeting. We have to choose gifts for the guests together. I know. I'll definitely be there next time. John replied grudgingly, his face clouded with irritation. I grew anxious. Though true to form, he broke his promise again. He said he'd come after work on the day of our meeting, but he was nowhere to be seen when the time came. My calls went unanswered, my messages unread. 15 minutes past our appointment time, and still no sign of him. I apologized to the female staff member. Sorry, I can't get in touch with my husband, so please proceed with the meeting. All right, you're Emily, right? The staff asked timidly, addressing me by my first name. Yes, that's me. Do you remember me? I'm John's cousin, Iris. We met at the party, remember? Oh, Iris, recalling my memories. I raised my voice. To think of it, I attended a party with John. We arrived early, but John left me alone, feeling tense among strangers, and went off to chat with his cousins. Then Florence, Iris, who is around my age, approached me with a smile, alone as I was. It was a relief to be talked to by her, amidst all of John's relatives. Iris, you work here, huh? Yes, I do. I'm so happy you're having your ceremony with us. Iris's friendly smile suddenly turned serious. Is John really that busy with work? Back when we were dating, it wasn't like this. Work is important, but honestly, I wish he'd prioritize our relationship a bit more. Iris comforted me as I spoke in a lowered voice. It's a big event, after all. I'll give him a piece of my mind next time I see him. Thank you. I felt a bit better as Iris clenched her fist in support. When I got home, John was lounging on the sofa, grinning at his phone. He didn't even say welcome back as I entered the living room. Don't you have something to say to me? I asked angrily, standing in front of him. John finally looked up. Sorry. I was supposed to finish in the morning, but it turned into overtime. Then at least let me know. Besides, it's not a busy season at work, is it? John bristled at my question. Look, my department at the headquarters is busy, unlike where you work. A country girl like you wouldn't understand. This is where I come from, has nothing to do with it. Honestly, I don't even want to have a party. It's just a hassle. I was speechless. So that's how John felt about our wedding party, our first step towards our future together? Fine, I'll decide everything myself from now on. Just don't complain, I retorted, tears spilling over. Can I really make it work with John? He was taken aback as I started to cry. I went too far. I'm tired from work and all the prep. I promise I'll be at the remaining 2 meetings. John said hurriedly, seeming panicked. Really? Can I trust you? Yes. If work comes up. Steps. If work comes up, I'll reschedule or ask a colleague to cover for me. And true to his word, John attended the remaining meetings with me. However, another unsettling event occurred. Is it a month before the wedding party? John suddenly wanted to postpone it. When I asked him why, he said it was due to work reasons. Sorry, there was a defect in a product because of a subordinate's mistake. I had to go on a business trip to a branch office that day. I couldn't hold back my anger. It's my responsibility for my subordinate's mistake. I had to apologize in person. I understood his words as a working professional. I felt like crying, but resigned myself to not blaming John and asked him further. How long will it be postponed? Until the aftermath is settled? Once things calm down, we'll book again. Of course. I'll explain to guests. I held back my complaints. I just wanted the party to be a priority. All right, then please do that. I sighed and agreed. A while later, the day before our original reservation arrived, John left on his business trip as planned. As I was getting ready to go out, my phone rang. It was Iris. I was shocked by what she told me. What? Just see for yourself. I rushed out of the house and drove to the venue, at the entrance of the main building. I checked the names of the couples getting married. It's true. Drin, that Sean Dutt. The board listed John and an unfamiliar woman's name, especially since today was supposed to be the eve of our wedding party. I was actually dizzy. I headed towards the chapel on the north side of the main building. Just with a prayerful heart, I pushed open the heavy doors and was struck with shock. John, in a white tuxedo, stood facing a woman in a dress in front of a pastor as John lifted her veil for a vow kiss. I felt like collapsing. Though stunned, watching the happy couple, a fierce anger rose within me. All his excuses of being busy, all the postponed meetings, it was all for her. They then walked out of the church, stepping on petals thrown by guests heading towards the main building. The guests seemed to be in their 30s and 40s. It appeared John and Isabella had invited only friends, excluding bosses and family. I followed behind the guests to the main building, unable to contain my anger. I was waiting to front John. As a staff member left the room, I decided to barge in. But then, I heard their conversation through the slightly open door, thinking it could be useful later. I discreetly placed my phone set to record near the door. A young bride is definitely better. Oh man. I wonder if it was okay to cancel the party. But to cancel the party with Emily, showing off a bride like that old hag would probably get us booed by the guests. John, that's terrible. Didn't you marry her because you loved her? No way. She's just a tasteless country girl, practically a charity. The only one I love is Isabella, from Action's Values. Their vulgar laughter made my blood boil. My fists clenched so hard they felt like breaking. Rates unforgivable. Get ready. I'll soon bring your blissful world crashing down to hell. Completely enraged, coincidentally, my father and relatives were nearby. I sent the recording of John and Isabella's conversation to my father and saw his furious reaction. Next, I called someone else, and they too couldn't hide their surprise. While I was making these arrangements, the hallway started getting noisy. It seemed like the reception was about to start. I ended the call and headed towards the reception hall. After waiting outside for a bit, my father showed up as promised, bringing a large group with him. We nodded to each other and pushed open the doors to the reception hall. Stepped into the future of the couple and the prosperity of both families. Cheers! Cheers! Amidst the lively mood, I stormed into the venue with my father and relatives. We're in a hurry, it's already started. Wait, what's going on? The attendees started murmuring in confusion. Excuse me, who are you? You're not one of the invited guests. Could you please leave? I smiled at the puzzled Mick. Who am I? I'm John's wife. John and Isabella on the stage froze. Apparently, they hadn't informed the guests that John was already married. How strange. Why is my husband marrying an unknown woman? Are you John's mistress? I called out to Isabella with a full smile. My husband always takes good care of you. Since you're not surprised to see me, you knew he was married, right? So, you're an accomplice? It's no, this is... Oh, John fell silent with a bitter face, and Isabella stammered as the crowd buzzed. Wait, what's happening? John isn't single? Bigamy is not okay. This is ridiculous. I'm leaving. Hey, everyone. Everyone, please come back. I'm leaving too. I practiced to liven up the party, and it was all a waste of time. Even the Mick put the microphone back on its stand and left with the other guests, angry and disappointed. John left with only my father and relatives in the venue, yelled at me. Emily, you've ruined a perfectly good party. What are you going to do about it? Holding back an angry relative. I spoke to John. So, John, you had the means to hold another wedding? Isabella looked at me with scorn. What are you talking about? As a manager, he earns a lot. Don't you know that, being his wife? Isabella, with a mocking smile, turned an innocent grin towards John. John, you went all out to plan a lovely plan for me, right? The hotel room for tonight is a top-floor suite. Oh yeah. John looked guilty as he avoided Isabella's gaze. I laughed softly and informed Isabella. Oh, you didn't know? No what? He's drowning in debt. I explained calmly. I accidentally opened the credit card bill that arrived the other day. The amount due on the revolving credit was shockingly high. Isabella looked at John in disbelief. John had a grimace on his face, turning away from Isabella. He earns a lot, but he spends more than his income on clothes, bags, watches, always buying the latest high-end brands. He's just showing off. When I showed Isabella the copy of the credit card statement I had prepared, she turned pale. No way. I didn't know about this. Really? Even as his mistress, you didn't know. I threw her own words back at her, and Isabella clicked her tongue, glaring at John. What a why didn't you tell me? I have a repayment plan. I won't let Isabella suffer. John retorted. I was planning to divorce Emily after making her pay my debts, and then remarry Isabella. I never intended to have a wedding party with you. Don't rant it at me. I married a tacky country girl like you for the money, but I regret it now. Just living with you makes me feel like a country bumpkin. So will your wife pay off your debts? No way I will. I dismissed the idea, and Isabella spoke to John in a coquettish tone. John, you did finalize the contract for the condo we're moving into, right? The view from the 30th floor must be amazing. You remember our promise to live together after our honeymoon in Europe, right? I sighed and looked back and forth between Isabella and John. John had been acting guilty and avoiding Isabella's gaze since earlier. Looks like you haven't even signed the contract for the condo, right? You're probably going to say the rooms were all booked to delay moving in together, right? You don't have the money. Or you'll ask Isabella to pay and then never reimburse her. I plan to pay eventually. Eventually, huh? Isabella's eyes narrowed. Well, it's fine. I don't mind if you don't pay me back right away. I'm not in trouble. Yeah, right? Isabella is from a wealthy family, so she has plenty of freedom. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. John was annoyed by my laughter. Why are you laughing? John, you thought Isabella was from a wealthy family, right? Sure, she might have money to spend freely if her husband is working abroad. John's eyes widened. I informed John with a hint of pity. Didn't you know? As a receptionist at a trading company, you might not get such information. After blinking a few times, John turned back to Isabella. Isabella has a husband? No way. She said she was divorced and now single. Right. Isabella didn't answer, instead looking away. I pulled out some documents and photos from my bag and presented them to John. After canceling our wedding party, I hired a private investigator to look into your affairs. Wait, don't do things like that on your own. The one who cheated has no right to say that. It's my salary, so you have no say in it. I snapped back, and John fell silent, looking displeased. I was considering forgiving you depending on your behavior, but I didn't expect you to go as far as having a wedding with your mistress. I threw a sharp glance at Isabella. I also had Isabella investigated, and look what I found. You wouldn't call this me and her brother or friend, would you? In the photo, Isabella was smiling affectionately at a tall, handsome man in front of an elegant mansion. As he backed in CL, a man with a suitcase at his feet seemed to be leaving for a business trip. The next photo showed the same man in the driver's seat of a car, with Isabella getting out. The location was their home's shuttered garage. The third photo was even more decisive. Isabella was walking down a beautifully illuminated street, holding hands with the man, looking cheerful. John's eyes bulged, and he trembled when he saw the photos. Isabella, who is this guy? He's my cousin's brother. You only have female cousins. Did I say that? Isabella snorted. Yes, that's my husband. Handsome, isn't he? Ignoring John's gaping mouth, Isabella continued proudly. So I thought I'd have some fun with a moderately good-looking man. Moderately? You can't tell from the photos, but in person, he's as handsome as a top star. I don't want to be seen with unattractive men. They have to compliment me. John was stunned, but Isabella kept talking. Then John appeared. I thought he was okay for my standards. What about you marrying me after my divorce? John looked like he was about to cry. What? No way. John's company is famous domestically, but it's nothing compared to international companies. John's salary is half of my husband's. It's like a dream, right? Isabella laughed condescendingly. I just went along today because John wanted to play wedding. Playing wedding? I was serious about it. As a married man? That's ridiculous. Isabella sharply dismissed him. The wedding at my in-laws was in a traditional family with a modest ceremony, and it was boring. Then John here suggested a chapel wedding, so I went along. It was fun, like filming a drama. After a satisfied smile, Isabella pouted. It felt great, being like a heroine, but having it ruined by a wife is so lame. I'm bored now. Let's break up. Wait. Isabella, don't contact me anymore? Bye. Please, don't leave me. John, on the verge of tears, was left behind as Isabella swirled the skirt of her dress and left the venue. My father and relatives looked at John, kneeling and devastated on the stage, with disdain. What a disgraceful man, canceling a wedding party with his wife to marry another woman. I've never heard of such a thing. Such dishonesty, hurting Emily, this liar. Even as John faced a barrage of criticism from my relatives, he showed no sign of remorse. Instead, he glared at me, my father and relatives, and yelled, "Shut up. Emily, did you have your dad and relatives wait nearby just to make a fool of me? You twisted. Today's my mother's death anniversary. That's why the relatives were together. We had a meal at a nearby restaurant." John looked bewildered. "I told you the other day, remember?" "Oh, did I hear that?" "You were too preoccupied with Isabella. You must have forgotten." John fell silent with a sulky face as I shot a sarcastic remark at him. I was supposed to attend the memorial too. I was getting ready to leave when your cousin Iris, who works here, told me someone with the same name as you was getting married today. Iris. She works here. Yes. So I called my dad. I'm going to check it out. If it's true, I'll have Dad and my uncles come to the venue. I told him. So are you satisfied now? Is it ruining my big day? John turned and saw a group of people entering the hall, his face a mix of shock and fear. It's department manager. The department manager, seeing John and me, looked confused. Emily told me about John's wedding party. It's John's wedding party, so I rushed over with my colleagues. But what is all this about? Well, you see, when John used to work at our company, the department manager also visited my department, so we knew each other. Because of this connection, John and I had asked the department manager to come to our party. That's what I told you. John's party was supposed to be postponed, and no new date had been set. The department manager's colleagues frowned. The younger man in the back, crossing his arms, nodded in agreement. It was said to be due to Emily's circumstances, so the day was still on hold. So I was being blamed. Yes. But then we heard from the department manager. It seems there was a mistake about the date. It is today, so we hurried over. I'm sorry for the sudden call and inconvenience. I apologize to the manager and his colleagues. There won't be a party with this man anymore. Of course not. John retorted sharply. I was a fool to marry someone like you. You've embarrassed me. That's my line. John, the department manager spoke sternly to John. You've disgraced me as your matchmaker. Oh, I didn't mean to. You are talented and respected by your juniors. I had high expectations, but you've disappointed me. The department manager looked coldly at John. I'll report this to the president. Forget about any promotion. Linked. Just for an affair. John's casual remark drew looks of disgust from his younger colleagues. John marrying a mistress is not normal. John, so that's who you are. The team leader position will be reassigned too, right? We should ask someone else to take over. Agreed. The department manager and his colleagues left. Am I being removed from the project? Go away. John collapsed on the stage, crying as my relatives voiced their criticism. You reap what you sow. I knew you looked down on Emily and me as country folks, but I thought you were serious about work. I was wrong. Disappointing. My usually gentle father, filled with anger, told John off, and John hung his head in embarrassment. The next day at work, John was like a person walking on pins and needles. John is ungrateful. Despite asking the department manager to be a matchmaker, he married his mistress and was planning to divorce his wife. Such talk spread throughout the company and even reached our clients. John, who had been top in his department, lost the trust of his bosses, colleagues, and clients, tumbling down from his career path in an instant. Unable to bear the cold stares from everyone, John left the company before being transferred to a regional branch. His convenient plan of deceiving me to pay his debts, then divorcing me and then remarrying Isabella. Such a convenient plan being ruined, it seems John was deeply upset. He went crying to his parents' home, but his in-laws, informed by Iris about the cause of the divorce, were furious. "What a disgraceful thing you've done! We're being talked about by all our relatives. Marry your mistress is not something a sane person does. We're cutting ties with you. Don't contact us ever again." He was disowned by his own family. His huge fashion debts, the cancellation fee for our wedding party, compensation to the venue for the disturbance with Isabella's party, and alimony to me. John ended up having to pay off all these debts himself, debts that he had accumulated in an attempt to make a lump sum repayment. He attempted to find a full-time job using his career experience, but was turned down due to his then ended up only getting a part-time job. That to pay off this enormous amount, he had to juggle multiple part-time jobs, working from early morning till late at night, seemingly having no time to even care about his appearance. The last time I saw him on the street, he was gaunt with stubble and noticeable white hair, hardly recognizable. As for Isabella, she was caught cheating by her husband, was divorced and kicked out of the condo. She is now desperately working every day to make ends meet, divorcing within a year of marriage. I initially blamed myself for that, however my colleagues were all kind and didn't blame me. Thanks to them, I could focus on work again after a while, being entrusted with training new employees and selected for the project development team. I've been advancing my career, and am now living a fulfilling life. That by chance, or perhaps ironically, Iris and I became close friends because of this incident. We occasionally enjoy having coffee together or going on trips, which has become one of my pleasures. I think divorcing a man who constantly lies was the right decision. I'm determined not to be deceived by appearances or atmosphere in the future, to cultivate better judgment in people, and to grow personally. Alyssa, honey, I'm sorry for making you feel lonely all this time. Mommy and Daddy have come to pick you up, so from now on, we'll always be together. My niece Alyssa and I were stunned and lost for words when my brother and his wife suddenly appeared. And for good reason. They'd left Alyssa with me and hadn't contacted us for 7 long years. What could they possibly want now? Thanks for taking care of Alyssa all this time. From now on, she's going to live with our family. So what reckless words? Years' anger was bubbling up inside me. Alyssa, you've grown up so well, just like my daughter. Let's live happily with Daddy and me from now on. Alyssa, I love you so much. But to my surprise, it was Alyssa who showed more anger towards my brother and his wife. And who are you? The real reason they came to pick up Alyssa was shockingly selfish. They didn't consider Alyssa's feelings at all. I'm not the same person I was back then. I'm going to walk my own path and take responsibility for my life, so I can't be with you guys. Alyssa firmly rejected her unreasonable parents. The words of my niece sent my brother and his wife into a fury. Their lives had changed dramatically over these 7 years. My brother and his wife made a huge mistake. While Alyssa found her greatest happiness, they thought they were staging a touching family reunion, but they couldn't have imagined such a chilling conclusion. My name is Charlotte. I got married 3 years ago and live with my 1-year-old daughter and husband. We run a pastry shop together, and our mornings start very early. Our days are busy with a few days off, but we spend our leisure time as a family. One hot July day, we were enjoying playing in a shallow creek at the park. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was a call from my brother. We weren't close, especially after our parents passed away a few years ago. We hardly ever spoke. I hesitantly answered the call. Hey, Charlotte, how are you? Long time no see. My brother's tone hadn't changed, light and carefree. Our personalities are complete opposites. I've always disliked my brother for his irresponsibility and carelessness. He seemed to have a steady job after getting married, but before that, he never held down a serious job and relied on our parents. I never saw him put in real effort. I just couldn't grow fond of him. Yeah, I'm fine. What's up all of a sudden? After high school, I went to culinary school, then trained under a renowned pastry chef, and finally opened my own shop. My brother and I couldn't be more different. Just a little favor to ask. I'd had a bad feeling about this while watching my daughter and husband play in the creek. I replied, if it's money you need, I don't have any. It sounded like a joke, but I was serious. What are you talking about? I would never ask my sister for money. He laughed heartily on the other end of the phone. I've never been able to understand what my brother is thinking. Actually, I was hoping you could take care of my daughter Alyssa for a while. It was an unexpected request. Alyssa, my niece, is a high schooler known for her mischief, and I've heard rumors about her being picked up by the police a few times recently. I doubt I could handle her. Why would my brother want to leave her with me? I was filled with anxiety. The thing is, my new wife is pregnant, and she's having a really tough time with morning sickness. I just got a transfer at work, and with the baby coming, we're planning to move to the new location as a family. But with my wife's condition, she can't take care of Alyssa. I knew my brother had remarried recently after his first wife passed away last year. I have a 1-year-old daughter and a busy job. I really don't have the capacity to look after a high school girl. We're starting summer vacation next week, and I just need you to take care of her for that period. That's once the vacation's over, I'll come to pick her up. My wife often needs to rest because of her low blood pressure. I want to reduce her burden, and I can't leave a troublesome teenager alone at home. I understood my brother's situation. I'd experienced severe morning sickness during my pregnancy, too. I didn't know what kind of person my new sister-in-law was, but moving and taking care of a niece during a difficult pregnancy is indeed too much. I wanted him to ask someone else, but I was probably his only option. Only for the summer vacation, right? Maybe I should help, considering my pregnant sister-in-law's condition. Absolutely. After the vacation, we'll be settled in our new place, and my wife's morning sickness should be better. I'll definitely come to pick her up. I hadn't seen my niece since my brother's first wife's funeral. However, we hadn't spoken a single word to each other at that time. I had no idea what to talk about, or how to approach her now. Despite my growing anxiety, we reluctantly agreed to take her in. The next day, my brother brought Alyssa to our house. I really appreciate this. I'll definitely thank you properly when I come to pick her up. With just those words, my brother left quickly. Alyssa stood at the entrance, looking down, not trying to make eye contact. Her hair was dyed brown, her face was made up, and she wore short pants, revealing her slim legs with brightly colored nails on her fingers and toes. She looked like a typical rebellious high school girl. I had no idea how to start a conversation. Alyssa, come on in for now. I've prepared a room for you upstairs. You can leave your stuff there. I chose my words carefully, as if walking on eggshells, and tentatively spoke to her. Then she looked up. I have my own room. She looked at me with her big eyes. I felt a bit tense under her gaze. Of course there's a spare room you can use. It's empty, but there's a small TV, and you're welcome to use the closet however you like. Honestly, I was apprehensive about sharing a space with my niece, so I made sure she had her own room to give us both some separate space. Well, thank you. I'll make myself at home, Alyssa said and went upstairs with her belongings. I glanced at the sandals she took off and was a bit surprised. They were neatly arranged at the edge of the entrance. That's when our cohabitation began. I don't have school or club activities because it's summer break, so I'm pretty free, Alyssa said and took over the household chores, helping out our busy family. Besides, since I'm staying in this lovely house for free, the least I can do is help out. She even started helping with dinner preparations and made snacks for my daughter every day. Today I made pumpkin cookies. They're additive-free and low in sugar, so they're safe for her to eat a lot. Alyssa doted on my daughter, who quickly grew fond of her. And the snacks she made daily were not only cute but also delicious, unbelievably professional for an amateur. Alyssa, known for her mischief and police encounters, showed none of that behavior. Instead, she was honest and kind. I felt ashamed for having been trapped in my preconceptions. When we were at work, Alyssa started taking care of my daughter. My daughter, who usually went to daycare, was delighted to spend time with Alyssa at home. She even started calling Alyssa Big Sis. We were filled with gratitude towards her. Why would such a kind and responsible niece get into trouble with the police? Was he curious? I decided to ask her. Suddenly, Alyssa became silent and looked down. Her expression was sad. It seemed like she was hiding something. Then slowly, she looked up and quietly began to reveal her past to me. The past this 15-year-old girl carried was far beyond my imagination, filled with sadness and hardship. Alyssa told me about the loss of her beloved mother to illness when she was in middle school. However, it was a disease that might have been cured if it had been properly treated early on. Her mother, my brother's wife, suffered in silence, unable to make my brother understand her illness. Alyssa had harbored resentment towards her father, my brother, for this. My real mom was so kind and taught me so many things. She taught me cooking and even manners so I wouldn't embarrass myself in society. I remembered the neatly arranged sandals Alyssa had left on her first day at our house. I suddenly remembered. That's what it was all about. A year after my mom passed away, Dad remarried, and that's my current stepmom. How could Alyssa accept a new mother when she hadn't even come to terms with her loss? I grew increasingly frustrated with my brother's selfishness. Since then, Dad started telling me I was unwanted. My brother began neglecting Alyssa, choosing to go out at night with his wife instead. At home, he treated Alyssa as an intruder, not allowing her to be part of family time. Alyssa wasn't given her own room and ended up spending her time alone in a corner of the hallway. Really fed, Alyssa eventually resorted to stealing snacks and bread from convenience stores. After that, she started seeking a place to belong outside, venturing into the night and finding companions. Initially, she found joy in the company of those who accepted her loneliness, but as she grew closer to them, doubts emerged. Her friends started engaging in delinquency, and Alyssa began to take the blame for their actions. Repeatedly caught by the police, labeled as a troublemaker, school became difficult for her. Disgusted with her life, she longed to escape. Then suddenly, she was brought to my place, feeling completely abandoned by her uncle, and however with us, Alyssa began to rediscover her true self. I remember hugging her as she talked about her past with a fleeting smile. That's why she was so happy when we prepared a room for her, giving her a place where she belonged. But over time, she only used her room for sleeping at night. She spent most of her time playing with my daughter, in the living room, or helping me. What Alyssa truly sought wasn't solitude, but the warmth of a family. I felt helpless and angry at my brother's selfishness. Even after summer break, Dad might come to pick me up. I might have to return to my lonely life, so can I enjoy my time here for now? Her words brought tears to my eyes. I didn't know how to respond. Even if her father came for her, she would likely return to her previous life. Overwhelmed with emotion, I just held her close. And on the last day of summer break, her fears came true. Her father didn't show up. I wondered what my brother and his wife were thinking. Were they planning to come and pick her up? If so, were they preparing to welcome Alyssa into their new home? Were they intending to become a proper family and lead a peaceful life? Or did they have no intention of coming at all? I couldn't understand what they were thinking and called my brother numerous times. However, no matter how many times I called, he never answered. How selfish can he be? My frustration was growing. Meanwhile, Alyssa was quietly packing her things. Was she planning to leave today? But she had nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. I couldn't let her go back to the dangerous streets at night. Alyssa, stay one more night with us? I can't get in touch with your dad, and you have nowhere to go, right? Alyssa, who'd been silently packing, looked up and showed a bright smile. It seemed like her eyes were reflecting the light from the fluorescent lamps, probably tears. That night, I discussed it with my husband. We couldn't let Alyssa go, and we couldn't trust my brother and his wife. We wanted to take Alyssa in and live with her. My husband nodded in agreement with my thoughts. The next morning, we told Alyssa our decision. What? I stay here. I don't have to go back to that family. Alyssa's face was filled with joy, and she cried tears of happiness. Seeing her like this, I made up my mind. I would become her mother, and I firmly held Alyssa's hands. You can stay here forever. At that moment, we became a family. And then the new school term started. Alyssa dyed her hair back to black, stopped wearing makeup and doing her nails, and went to school every day. When she came home, she would immediately start making snacks for my daughter. Her skills were excellent, so we decided to try selling Alyssa's homemade vegetable cookies at our store. They became very popular as healthy snacks and sold out quickly. My mom used to bake cookies for me. I loved the sweet smell from the oven and often helped her. She was very interested in the sweets we made. So on weekends, we enjoyed baking with Alyssa. Wow, it smells so good. My daughter always came to the kitchen and couldn't resist sneaking some whipped cream and other treats. Alyssa laughed heartily at my daughter's actions. With our advice, Alyssa's baking skills improved rapidly. After graduating from high school, Alyssa enrolled in a patisserie school and then gained experience at a famous bakery. I wholeheartedly supported Alyssa as she walked the same path as me. After completing her apprenticeship, Alyssa, who had worked tirelessly in her shop from morning till night with her savings, finally achieved her dream of independence. Next, Alyssa became a full-fledged pastry chef. "Thank you, Mom, Dad, for everything," Alyssa said, a little embarrassed, and smiled. "Congratulations. You've worked hard. Let's continue to strive together as sister shops," I said, setting goals for ourselves. Alyssa, who set her own goals and worked hard toward her dreams, was our pride. My husband nodded in agreement. After that, Elso developed not only delicious, but also stylish and cute sweets that made people happy just by looking at them. She quickly joined the ranks of famous bakeries. She received daily interviews from TV Spendgeese, and her creations spread across the country through social media. People even came from afar to visit our shop. Every day, there was a line forming in front of our shop before opening. One day, my husband and I were helping prepare for the opening at my daughter's shop. As Christmas approached, we paid attention not only to product development, but also to decorating the store and designing paper bags. We pastry chefs put a lot of effort into this time of the year. This year, the Christmas limited edition product that Alyssa made was strawberry cheesecake. The combination of rich cheese and refreshing strawberries was very popular, and people lined up from early in the morning just to get it. Alyssa carefully arranged the products, my husband cleaned up the kitchen, and I wiped the glass showcase. At that moment, a man's voice said, "Excuse me. Sorry, we still have about 10 minutes until we open. Would you mind waiting outside?" I replied, turning my face toward the source of the voice. In that instant, my hand stopped wiping the glass, and I froze. "Hey, Grace, long time. No see. How have you been?" The man was my brother, who hadn't come to pick up Alyssa for 7 years and had been out of touch. Alyssa seemed to be at a loss for words too. There was a brief silence. "Alyssa, I'm sorry for making you feel lonely all this time, but you don't have to worry anymore. Mommy and Daddy are here to pick you up." From behind my brother, his wife appeared, raising her voice. This was the first time I had seen my brother's wife's face. Until now, she had never done anything motherly, and now she was suddenly claiming to be mommy. Both of them appeared so casually, as if nothing had happened. I looked at them with contempt, surpassing anger. What on earth did they want? "Charlotte, don't make such a scary face. Thank you for taking care of Alyssa all this time. Sorry for being late to pick her up. Alyssa will live with our family from now on." What a thoughtless thing to say. They had no idea what Alyssa had gone through and how hard she had worked for the past 7 years. They knew nothing, and now they were talking about our family, which boiled up inside me. "Alyssa, you've become quite impressive. You truly are my daughter. Let's live happily with Mom and Dad from now on. Alyssa, you're really amazing. I love you so much." Alyssa, who had been twisting her face at my brother's eerie attitude she had never shown before, finally spoke. Who are you? If you have nothing to do at the shop, please leave right away." Alyssa turned her back to my brother and his wife as she said that. "So we apologize for being late to pick you up, but we've had our own difficulties too. It's been tough in many ways. Now that you're grown up, you'll understand, won't you?" In response to my brother's words, Alyssa turned around and cast a cold gaze at him. "We've been struggling financially. Even our child born 7 years ago is currently in foster care. Truth is, I used a bit of the company's money and got caught, leading to losing my job. On top of that, we're in debt, and there's no way we can support our child." What a situation. He had embezzled money, lost his job, and was burdened with substantial debt. They had seen an article about Alyssa's success in a magazine, and out of financial desperation, they approached her. "Pity enough of your selfishness. If you're in need of money, then both of you should work from morning till night." I couldn't contain my anger and raised my voice unintentionally. "Don't get so angry. Besides, this is a matter between me and Alyssa. You're not involved. Don't interfere. A team work then." Alyssa placed her hand on my back and stepped forward. Her touch seemed to convey gratitude. "That's right. Just as you say. I'm no longer the person I used to be back then. I've grown up. I'll take responsibility for my own life. So, I won't be living with you. You're disrupting the business. Please leave." With a single statement, Alyssa turned my brother and his wife red-faced. "What kind of attitude is that towards your parents? It's just that we were a little late to pick you up. You're quick to act high and mighty once we say something nice. We hoped you had grown into someone who could listen to your parents and their expectations, but we're disappointed." My brother's harsh words echoed in the shop. Why should I listen obediently to my parents? who had always been unreasonable. I couldn't help but feel irritated. And my husband, having heard the commotion, came out of the kitchen. What parents? What family? They are neither my parents nor anything of the sort. You've walked alongside me as I grew up, always supporting me. You created a warm family atmosphere and gave me a place to belong. You taught me the joy of living. Mom, Dad, you are my real parents. I plan to use the money I earn at this shop to repay you. But with a gentle expression, Alyssa smiled. Then, with a sharp look at my brother and his wife, she added, "So, outsiders, please leave right now. We're about to open for business. If you intend to linger here any longer, I'll contact the police for obstructing our operations." Next, in a low voice, Alyssa said, "Don't make a scene like this." I was deeply moved by Alyssa's words. We had raised her as our real daughter all along, and we would continue to consider her our daughter. There was no doubt about that. Don't raise your voice any further, and leave quickly. If you ever dare to show your faces in front of us again, we will definitely call the police. Doctor, you won't see us again. With that, my brother and his wife roughly closed the shop store and left. We breathed a sigh of relief, and on schedule, Alyssa reopened her shop for business. It was supposed to be the end of those two. However, this was just the beginning of relentless harassment from my brother and his wife. The following day, I received an email from my brother on my smartphone. The email contained a terrifying message that seemed like a downright threat. It stated that unless Alyssa was returned to my brother and his wife, they would spread negative rumors about her shop and make it impossible for her to continue her business. I immediately called Alyssa's shop, and she informed me that a similar letter had been placed in front of her store. I'll burn this kind of letter, even if they spread bad publicity about the shop. I won't be deterred. I will be defeated by such foolish harassment. Alyssa continued to ignore the repeated threatening letters, even though she knew they were harassment. Receiving such harsh threats daily would take a toll on anyone's spirits. But Alyssa remained steadfast with a determined attitude. At this point, it seemed like Alyssa was waiting for the right opportunity to strike back at my brother and his wife. Finally, that chance arrived. One day, a journalist who had previously featured Alyssa in a magazine visited her shop. They had received a tip about Alyssa and came to verify the truth. The tipster had accused Alyssa of abandoning her parents, who had supported her through life, once she became famous as a pastry chef. The tip also claimed that Alyssa had profited from cakes developed using her parents' ideas, keeping all the money for herself, even when her parents were in financial distress. Alyssa was shocked. She knew exactly who the malicious tipster was, even without being told. However, Alyssa didn't waver in the face of such a malicious tip. Instead, she saw it as an opportunity to fight back. "Rachel, I will tell you the whole truth." With those words, Alyssa began to recount her past to the journalist. She spoke about her real mother's illness and her father's remarriage, the mistreatment she had endured after her father's remarriage, her troubled teenage years when she felt like she had no place, and how she met us during high school. She talked about her journey into the world of pastry making, her struggles, and the bond she formed with us as a couple. Alyssa also spoke about my brother and his wife's sudden appearance in her life, driven by financial motives. The journalist listened intently, hanging on to every word. If you truly love someone, would you abandon your own daughter? And isn't it the act of a real parent to show up only when it's convenient, ask for money, and resort to spreading such rumors when denied? Alyssa's story came to an end with those words. The journalist had tears in their eyes and commended Alyssa for her efforts. They decided to feature Alyssa's shop once again in a special article titled "The Shop of a Young Charismatic Pastry Chef Who Overcame a Harsh Childhood." The following month, a magazine with this headline on the cover appeared in bookstores and convenience stores nationwide, bringing even more attention to Alyssa. Simultaneously, numerous magazine journalists descended upon my brother and his wife. They were bombarded with questions about their mistreatment of Alyssa, embezzlement of company funds, a life burdened by debt, and their abandonment of their child. The couple could no longer step outside their home. Furthermore, the only person who had supported the brother and his wife, her parents and relatives, were shocked and furious when they learned the truth. Everyone was appalled by the couple's inhumane actions, and they decided to cut all ties with them. My brother and his wife found themselves isolated from society, living a quiet life while constantly worrying about the public's judgment. We thought that Alyssa's retaliation had come to an end and peace had returned to our lives. However, our battle was far from over. At this point, my brother and his wife had begun harboring incomprehensible resentment towards her. Mom, all the shop's windows are broken. There are glass shards everywhere inside. One morning, I received a call from Alyssa. What a terrible act of harassment. Mr. Lettix, immediately, I thought of my brother and his wife. Alyssa, don't touch anything. It's dangerous. Call the police right away. I'm heading over there now. There were security cameras installed inside the shop. The culprit should be easily identifiable. I rushed to Alyssa's shop. Immediately upon arrival, I found the police conducting an investigation. As expected, the security cameras had captured the culprit, and it turned out to be my brother's wife. My brother's wife was promptly taken into police custody, and the interrogation began. Who do you think you are? I'll destroy that arrogant girl's shop right away. Next time, I'll even set the whole place on fire. My brother's wife had developed a deep resentment towards Alyssa and committed the act openly. If you're so upset, try using your own money to fix it. Well, you don't have that kind of amount, do you? However, the police didn't let my brother's wife's shallow thinking slide. With a snort, the police officer began speaking coldly. This is a case of property damage and interference with business, both of which can result in imprisonment or fines. Furthermore, due to this incident, the shop's merchandise couldn't be sold and repairs were needed, causing Alyssa to lose income. In all these aspects, compensation would be demanded. At this point, she finally realized the gravity of her actions. Her arrogant attitude changed, and she suddenly became smaller in demeanor. For the debt-ridden couple, there was no way they could afford the fines, so the brother's wife reluctantly entered the cold walls of prison. While Alyssa and I were cleaning up the shop's phone rang. It was my brother. Don't mess around. My wife got caught by the police because of you. You're the one who should go to jail for being a delinquent. Either switch places with my wife now, or if you don't want your past crimes to be exposed, contact the police and say that the culprit is someone else. We are already fed up with such unreasonable threats from my brother. It's your own doing. If you have the time to make these threatening phone calls, then find a job and try to pay off your debts. You can't keep relying on other people's money forever. Shut up. Don't interfere with your parents like this, you ungrateful daughter. I'll send you to hell. Atinfi on the other end of the phone, my brother was breathing heavily. You're not my parents or anything like that. You abandoned me 7 years ago. You're strangers now. Do you think you can get away with these threats? I still have all the letters left in front of the shop. I've recorded this phone call too. If you continue to harass us, you'll face the appropriate consequences. The appropriate consequences? You'll be charged with a new crime called extortion. Then from the receiver came my brother's growl. Exactly as Alyssa says. If you don't want to increase your charges any further, cut ties with us. Just work hard on your own and repay your debts. With that, we hung up the phone. 7 years ago, Alyssa was a high school student with a record of 5 delinquency cases, and I didn't know how to handle her. But to see her grow so resiliently, taking her own path, becoming independent, and distancing herself from her father was truly impressive. You've really become a remarkable person. You've worked so hard. I looked at Alyssa. Well, I'm my mother's daughter after all. Alyssa said that and blushed a little, looking shy. Finally, my brother disappeared from our lives. According to rumors, he couldn't find a steady job and resorted to daily labor to make ends meet. Unable to afford an apartment, he spent each night without a stable place to stay. Every day, he hid from debt collectors, wearing down his mental state, and gradually, he seemed to forget about his wife's existence. Once his wife, who had completed her prison sentence, was released, there was no one to greet her, and she had nowhere to go. However, my husband's wife dreamed of living with my brother again, unaware of the harsh reality. As through the tiny window in the prison wall, she projected her hope into the faint light. On the other hand, our shop, thanks to the featured article about Alyssa, saw even more customers. We were busy every day, which we were grateful for. And this spring, we announced a collaborative product with Alyssa's shop. It was a cheesecake. When you cut the cake, the inside turned into a chocolate flavor, captivating many women. It spread nationwide and became a massive hit. Alyssa still took care of my daughter, and my daughter admired Alyssa. The two of them were like sisters, despite the age difference. Then came some wonderful news. Alyssa was getting married. Her partner was none other than a male journalist she had met during an interview about her shop. After learning about Alyssa's tumultuous past through the interview, the journalist continued to support her. He began visiting the shop in his free time and even helped out on his days off. He had advised Alyssa on how to handle the harassment from my brother and his wife and to keep evidence of the threats. Gradually, the two of them grew closer, becoming partners in each other's lives. My husband and I were invited to attend the wedding as Alyssa's parents. It was the happiest news. My husband was nervous about walking Alyssa down the aisle. And there was one more thing. Alyssa had requested us to create the wedding cake. A one-of-a-kind cake filled with our memories, their future journey. Future journey and happiness. I was already brainstorming ideas for its creation. What good are you anyway? What's this all of a sudden? What's your worth in life? My husband, who suddenly started saying nonsensical things. He wasn't like this before, but he changed into a verbally abusive man as soon as we got married. What are he going to do after asking that? It's obvious, isn't it? I want a divorce. But he didn't know something crucial. Before we got married, I had lied to him about something. I told him I was a CEO and my company made over $600 million a year. What about our kids? You can abandon them. It's not abandoning. You should take responsibility and raise them. And you're still their father. Even from now on, I'll be the father of my new family. I don't have time for you and them. I'm having a new baby soon. I couldn't believe he had even gotten someone pregnant. At this point, I had no reason to hold back. I decided to pay him back double for everything he had done. And since we got married, you haven't earned a single cent. Living comfortably on my money, I don't recall ever asking you for that. You've been nothing but trouble for me all this time. So pay me $60,000 in alimony. Sweaty jerk. Why should I pay? It should be the other way around. That's why this is a fair demand. Understand that. I thought he was an idiot. That amount was nothing for me now. I'll pay you. $60,000 is a small price. What? That's when I revealed my true identity to my husband. The look on his face at that moment is still laughable to me. And my revenge isn't over yet. The real hell for him is just beginning. I'm Jessica Miller, CEO of a certain company. I lived with my 2 kids and my husband, Dave. I got to where I am now thanks to my family. Big sis, can you help me out with the company? Glenn, I can't do anything. That's not true. I need your help because you're my sister. 3 years into my career, he asked me to help him. At the time, he was a college student and had started a company dealing in imported goods. If I were to help, what would I need to do? I need your advice. You've always loved fancy goods. Control. I have loved cute foreign items since high school, but I had doubts about quitting my stable job to help him. Nevertheless, my brother didn't give up, and almost a year had passed since his proposal. And his proposal, all right, I'll help. Really? I'm not sure how much I can help, but I gave in to my brother and quit my job to help him. Several years later, while working at my brother's company, I met Dave. I was invited to a social gathering by a friend. I was just looking to kill time, but I was drawn to Dave's cool demeanor. How about dinner together sometime? Sure, if you're okay with me. And before I knew it, I had asked him out. We started going out for meals and eventually began dating. Being with him was comfortable, and I started thinking about marriage. 3 years into our relationship, he proposed, I want you to marry me. If I'm good enough for you, then yes, please. And so we went to greet each other's families. We smoothly finished meeting Dave's family and later went to my family's home. But on the way there, Dave said something unexpected. I want you to be a stay-at-home wife after we're married? A stay-at-home wife? Yeah, you said you worked at a company dealing with fancy goods, right? Yes, that's right. I'm sorry, but I want you to quit your job. I want you to dedicate yourself to me and our home after we're married. As I hesitated to respond, Dave showed a bit of irritation. Feeling the urgency to answer, he asked, Is that a no? It's not that I can't. Then, I'm counting on you. It's a promise. I was conflicted. This was a turning point that would affect my future. We were about 10 minutes away from my house when I secretly contacted my brother. Dave was focused on driving and didn't notice. My brother was living at our family's house, so I wanted to talk to him first. So this is Jessica's family home. Yes. My brother is here too today. Got it. I was nervous, but the marriage greeting went smoothly. We were treated to a meal. I'll go help in the kitchen for a bit. Dave, you relax here. Thanks. I immediately went to my brother. What do you think I should do? I do want to work. The stay-at-home wife thing, right? You're needed here. Plus, it's thanks to you that the company has grown so much in such a short time. Hearing this made me want to continue working even more. Then my brother suddenly clapped his hands as if he had an idea. Wait, we can just keep it a secret. What? That's going to be found out. It'll be fine. That's it from now on. I'll give you tasks that you can do from home. Well, if that's the case. Actually, there's another favor I want to ask. Right, Skalpix, the mother favor? My brother seemed a bit hesitant to speak. Accident to speak. I braced myself, imagining it might be something troublesome. Can you become the CEO in my place? Etched next to Palmerfield? Why? This was a decision made by all the executives. But you're the CEO, Tyler. That's why, if you become the CEO, I'll be the vice president. Please. Saying this, my brother pleaded with me. But all he did was decide whether to purchase the proposed products. That's what's amazing. Most of the products you picked sold out instantly. I mean, and you'll be the CEO of a company with annual sales of $600 million. I decided to accept the proposal. I chose to become the CEO, not for the money, but because I couldn't disregard the wishes of the employees who had chosen me. Thus, I married Dave while holding this big secret, and it was something that absolutely couldn't be revealed. Rich's Teeple 8, a week after the greetings, we submitted our marriage registration and became husband and wife. Now that we're officially married, you'll follow my instructions? Instructions? Yes. I'm the head of this house. It's only natural. This was on the first day we moved into our new home. Dave started to adopt a more authoritarian attitude towards me. Even before the marriage, he had shown some signs of being condescending, and now my fears were coming true. I started to wonder what would become of this relationship. Hey, how about we go on a trip? A trip? We haven't had our honeymoon yet, so I thought it would be a good idea. This was 6 months after we got married. Until then, I've been desperately trying to fulfill my role as a housewife just as Dave wanted. Of course, I was thrilled by such a suggestion. So where shall we go? How about Alaska? You mentioned wanting to go there before, right? Yes. I've always wanted to go. I was happy that he remembered. We planned to go on the trip 2 weeks later, but I noticed that Dave seemed distracted. Is something wrong? No, nothing. We should get going. We have a plane to catch. Okay. We enjoyed our time in Alaska, but something happened that night. When I woke up in the middle of the night, Dave was not beside me. He returned to the room after a while. Where were you? It doesn't matter where I was. Of course I'd be worried when you're not here. Then Dave clicked his tongue softly. Listen, from now on, don't question what I do. Who do you think provides for you? I almost revealed the truth right there, but I held back. Indeed, Dave had been contributing a small amount of money each month for living expenses, but it was just a few $1,000s. I've been supplementing it with my own money without him knowing. Then I noticed something. Why do I smell something sweet? Scent? There's no such thing. What are you talking about? Dave was evasive, but I was sure of the smell. At that moment, I began to suspect that there might be another woman in his life. Maybe his trip was just a cover for him to meet someone else. The trip was for 3 nights and 4 days, but every night you went out. I tried to follow him, but couldn't catch him as he seemed to be wary of me. I wondered, what was the purpose of this trip? In the end, I couldn't enjoy the trip and return to my daily life, whether it was good timing or bad. I discovered I was pregnant around this time. I immediately reported it to Dave, but it seems I'm pregnant. Pregnant? I see. Dave's reaction was incredibly lackluster. He neither seemed happy, nor did he express much concern. Instead, he appeared almost bothered by the news. I thought having a child might soften his attitude, but that wasn't the case. Even as my belly grew, he never helped with house chores. Could you help out a bit? I'm not feeling well today. Why do I have to do that? I can hardly move in this condition. I'm troubled too, you know. You got pregnant on your own. I couldn't tolerate this attitude anymore. That's no way to speak to someone. That's completely irresponsible. But my words didn't seem to reach Dave. Raising a child costs money. You should know that as my wife. I didn't understand such a thing. As time went on, I reached my due date and ended up giving birth alone. That's too much, isn't it? No, it's beyond too much. When it showed my newborn child to my family at home, my parents and brother were furious. You should just leave him. I agree with Mom. You'll only suffer if you stay with him. I know, but it's not that easy with a newborn. If anything happens, talk to us right away. Thanks. Oh well. As I was about to leave, my brother stopped me. Sorry, sis. I forgot to mention earlier, but we started doing business with your husband's company. Really? Yeah, I realized it a bit late. Well, that can't be helped. But this information might be useful later. Yes, you shouldn't show that expression to anyone else. Why not? Just a word of advice. Look, when my son was born, I'd stopped expecting anything from him. The baby's crying was too much, so I slept farther away. A baby's job is to cry, and it can't be helped. But then it's your job to make the baby stop. My son and I ended up sleeping in the living room, the furthest from the bedroom. Dave also complained about trivial things. What's this meal? Look, be stopax, don't be careless. I didn't have much time today. You're always home and you don't have time. Don't joke with me, he said, sweeping the dishes off the table. The plates fell to the floor, startling my son into crying. Dave shouted at him for being noisy. It was a nightmarish scene. Forget cleaning up, just make him stop crying. Without a word, I took my son and went outside. I couldn't stand being in the house for even a second longer. It's about half an hour later. I returned home to find Dave gone. Sigh, why does it have to be like this? I was wearing down both physically and mentally, and eventually, I ended up in the hospital. That day, after seeing Dave off, I was in a remote meeting at home when I suddenly felt ill and lost consciousness. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed. My son, he's fine. He's sleeping over there. I sighed in relief. Did Tyler help me? Of course he did. You suddenly collapsed on the screen. I rushed to your house. Thank you. Then Tyler's expression turned serious. I guess so. This time was just lucky timing, but if no one had noticed, it could have been irreparable. Tyler was right. Considering my son, I needed to make a decision soon. I took a deep breath. You're right, Tyler. I've been avoiding it for various reasons, but for my child's sake, I need to have this talk. Absolutely. If anything happens, Mom and I are here for you. So, I decided to bring up divorce with my husband after getting discharged. The diagnosis was exhaustion, so after a 3-day stay, I was discharged. When my son and I got home, Dave was waiting with a furious expression. Can't you even manage your own health? I need to talk to you. Look, it's later. I'm going out now. Wait a minute. Without saying where he was going, Dave left and didn't return that day. He hardly came home anymore, making it difficult to find a moment to bring up divorce. When he did come home, there was no conversation between us. He just grabbed his things and left again. It became the new normal. One day, after he left for work and didn't return, I decided to tell him about the divorce and waited up all night. Then I got a call from his number. Hello, when are you coming home? It's trending. Instead of Dave, a young woman's voice answered, Are you his wife? And who are you? I'm Mindy. I'm in a relationship with Dave. I immediately understood she was his mistress. This was clear evidence, perfect for the divorce. Rates Pactards, I see. You don't seem surprised. At my suspicions, I answered calmly, suppressing my emotions. Then, this is easy. I really love Dave, so please divorce him quickly. Do you understand what you're saying? Of course. He said he doesn't need someone useless like you. I was about to hang up the phone, but it seemed like Mindy still had more to say. The Westy parts? I decided to entertain her a bit longer. As where he is now, I don't care, but go ahead. Listen, he's in my room sleeping like a baby. Retribution. That's irrelevant to me now. Mindy's laughter, despite her affair, was infuriating. Not just Dave, but this blatantly foolish woman was too much. Birds of a feather flock together. I guess. Anyway, he'll be staying at my place tonight. You sleep alone, okay? With that, the call ended. If that's her intention, then I'm ready for it too. Just as Mindy said, Dave didn't come home. The next afternoon, he finally returned. Seems like you had quite the fun yesterday. What are you talking about? Don't you know? A woman named Mindy called from your phone. None of your business. You're in love with her. Yeah, you could say that. Not denying it, huh? Just the use. Then Dave sat on the sofa, looking up at the ceiling. Tell me, what good are you? What's this all of a sudden? What's your worth in life? I thought to myself, here we go again. He might be trying to satisfy his ego by belittling and berating me. If that's the case, there's no hope for him. But what will you do after asking that? Just checking. To see if you're aware of it. And if I'm not. Laughing, Dave replied. Then it's divorce. Divorce, hun? Your mistress did tell me to break up with you. Sure. Then that's good. You're no longer needed. In fact, you were never useful. But to begin with, even if we divorce, you might regret it. Me, Brett? No way. Dave didn't know something important. Before we got married, I lied to him about something. I told him I was a CEO and my company's annual revenue exceeded $600 million. But something else was on my mind, our child. So what about our child? You're typing you're not going to abandon him, are you? That sounds bad. You should take responsibility and raise him. You're too capable even as his father. Come on. You just said you're okay with divorce. Besides, I'll be the father of my new family. I don't have time for you and them. There's another child on the way. I couldn't believe he had gotten Mindy pregnant. Mindy herself hadn't mentioned it, so I never imagined such a thing. At this point, there was no need to hold back with my husband. I'm going to give back to him double what he did to me. And since we got married, you haven't earned a cent, living comfortably on my money. I didn't ask you for any of that. You've been a nuisance to me this whole time. So pay me $60,000 in alimony. What a despicable man. I decided it was time to tell my husband the truth. Why should I pay? It should be the other way around. That's why it's a legitimate demand. The chick's obsessed to money. It's impossible for me to understand. That's for all the losses you caused me? Well, it's not even close, but I feel sorry for making you, who have no money, pay more. I couldn't believe his ignorance. With my current financial situation, I can easily afford that amount. I can easily pay that. $60,000 is nothing. I was about to reveal my true identity to my husband. He didn't understand what was coming. Thinking about what was about to happen, I couldn't help but feel excited. What are you staring at? What are you thinking? Who knows? What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. You can't possibly pay $60,000. Why would you think that? Because you're a stay-at-home wife who quit her job. He was clearly not following. Actually, I never quit my job. Not quit. But you were always at home. I can work from home. If you don't believe me, I'll show you proof. I took a business card from my wallet and handed it to him. Chris, a business card? It prominently displayed my name as the CEO. At you as CEO? You've been belittling me for so long, it must be hard to believe. But this is the truth. I don't believe you. But you're trying to trick me. Oh, too bad if you think so. Besides, the annual revenue of my company is $600 million. $600 million? More than you could ever hope to earn? Dave was visibly in despair. But my revenge wasn't over yet. Sorry to see you so hopeless, but there's more. The company, they recently started dealing in goods, right? I had been surprised when Tyler told me, but I knew I could use it. I left the business dealings to Tyler, but I was the top of the company. I think I'll cancel our dealings with your company. It seems impossible to associate with a company that has an employee like you. Wait, if you do that, I'll be fired. That's not my concern. We're getting divorced, after all. I apologize for everything. I'll do whatever you say from now on. How could he have no pride? He easily discarded it for his own safety after looking down on others. The thought that I once loved such a man, even for a moment, makes me feel pathetic. It's a shame, but that's impossible. You should start looking for a new job. I'll break up with Mindy. But what about the child she's carrying? Are you going to abandon that child too? I never wanted a child. She kept insisting. Remember, you said the same to me. The more he spoke, the more he entangled himself. Anyway, my mind is made up. You can use this house as you like. Maybe you should invite Mindy here. I left the house with my son. I had no attachment to this house, and I could afford to replace our belongings. We decided to go to my parents' house. What's going on all of a sudden? I'll be staying here for a while. You've made your decision, huh? I had already decided, but it took a while with everything happening. Take your time to relax. After putting my son to bed, I contacted Tyler. It's about that business deal with Dave's company you mentioned. Does that mean you're getting a divorce? Well, that's just a matter of time, but I wanted to sort this out first. I thought it might come to this, so I'm prepared. You're such a reliable brother. I decided to have Tyler handle the contract cancellation. I was unstoppable now. I was gonna meet Dave and his mistress. Mindy regret everything. Dave kept calling. So I decided to answer. What's up? Where are you? Where are you? I don't intend to tell you. Please come back. Why would I? Don't you understand? Also, I've officially decided not to continue the contract with your company. Is that true? Yes. And freeze. And I've arranged for my brother to convey everything about you. Dip fell silent. Whatever you do, it won't change your fate. You better tell Mindy too. Bye. I laughed out loud after hanging up. The words seemed brighter. I savored the current situation, though the final step remained. 3 days after returning to my parents' house. Tyler has taken care of everything you asked for. You can relax now. Thanks. Now it's my turn to finish this. Let me know if you need anything. I will. I consulted a lawyer the same day, anticipating Dave might make the divorce difficult. I explained everything, including the affair and the pregnancy. With all the evidence, the lawyer immediately began the proceedings. It looks like everything will be all right. The next day, the CEO of Dave's company came to apologize personally. Dave, as expected, was fired. What happened to him afterward was unclear. Upon inquiring further, it turned out that Dave, as I had anticipated, was fired from his job. What became of him afterward remains unknown, and then I thought you might be here. I never expected you to come here. Unexpectedly, Dave showed up at my parents' house. I thought this was the place. Give me another chance. Dave was still trying to cling to me, unwilling to let go. The chance is long gone. You had plenty of opportunities. It's a lifetime request. I no longer wanted anything to do with him. I just wanted to be free from this marriage. It's impossible. I'll come here again. And remember, you have Mindy and your child. I'll sort that out. Don't say things you can't do. It'll only cause more trouble. Then, with Tyler's help, I managed to get Dave out of the house. A week later, the divorce was officially finalized. Naturally, I demanded alimony from both my ex-husband and Mindy, partly to make them suffer for their actions. According to what I heard, Dave ended up being abandoned by Mindy as well, and was only asked to pay child support. All that was left for him was debt. It was a fitting outcome for a man who had been so despicable. Now, at last we can have peace. Then, as the CEO, continue to do your best. I understand. I'll work hard to make up for the trouble I've caused. For me, there was no longer any need to hide my position as the CEO. And so, my family and I moved into a high-rise condo apartment. I'm looking forward to leading a happy life with my family. My name is Michelle. My father, a business executive, chose my husband for me. He's a hard worker, kind yet strict, and my father thought he'd make a great future president of the company. So our marriage was decided without much say. Now, my father's become the chairman and my husband the president. I support him as the vice president. And thanks to this, our company is running smoothly. This marriage turned out to be a success for the company as well. We've been married for 20 years. But my husband has a hidden side. His affairs. He's great at his job, but I know he secretly sees other women. One day, my husband said to me, "That new girl. She's my mistress, and she's pregnant. When the baby's born, you're in charge of childcare." When I looked at that new girl, there she was, stunningly beautiful, enough to make even women stare. I thought, oh, yeah, she really is cute. Just the type my husband likes. If the baby is born, I can't just ignore it, right? You do realize saying that is like announcing you've been unfaithful, right? Are you okay with that? Of course, bam. After all, I'm the president. A president is expected to have 1 or 2 mistresses. What an excuse that is. My husband, boasting about having a mistress, clearly doesn't understand his position. Moreover, she's carrying a boy. So what? We have 3 children, don't we? Oh, good. They're all girls. A boy could eventually succeed me as president, but with girls, it's a no-go. Even a girl could marry a competent employee like I did. No, that won't do. It has to be someone carrying my genes. He said, flaring his nostrils. This reminded me of when I was pregnant. My husband, fussing over whether it would be a boy or a girl, showed great disappointment when he learned it was a girl. He sighed every time he changed her diaper. A girl, huh? Why couldn't she have been a boy? There's nothing you can do about it. If you want a boy that much, hope for the next one. Right, the next time. Yeah, let's go for it. And so, the next child was also a girl. We tried for a third, but again a girl. For me, whether it was a girl or a boy, either was fine. Just being born healthy was enough to make me happy. But it seems my husband felt differently. All girls. I wanted a boy. We can only have girls. You know, that's not something I can control. It's not impossible. You just lack the determination. If determination could change genetics, no one would have any problems. But my husband kept insisting it was all my fault. You can't even produce a boy, and you're utterly useless. A disgrace to business executives. A girl can become president if she's competent. No. The world of business is a man's world. A woman president would only be looked down upon. My father-in-law knew this. That's why he had you marry me. It has to be a boy no matter what. That's so outdated. Say whatever you want. This is the reality. Fine, then let's try for a fourth. I have no more expectations from you. What do you mean by that? Figure it out yourself. After that, every time my husband looked at me, he kept berating me for being useless. What should have been a peaceful home became tense. And our conversations turned to nothing more than necessary communications. My husband, using his busyness as an excuse, stopped coming home, and even at the company, we hardly spoke. I thought about confronting him at the company, but that's why women are no good. Can't you see this as a workplace? I know. If you understand, then why bring domestic issues into the workplace? That's mixing personal and professional life. It's exactly this kind of behavior that proves women are unfit for corporate management. I was left speechless by my husband's retort, boiling with anger, and my love for him gradually faded. All I wanted was for him to take his work seriously. Just don't ruin the company. That's all I hoped for. Therefore, I had no choice but to endure my husband's affairs that began from that point, unable to even voice a complaint. But then, he brazenly revealed he had a mistress, and she was pregnant. I couldn't help but think, this jerk, he really did it, and felt a surge of anger. What am I going to do with him? Yet, my husband was over the moon, believing he had produced a male heir. The fact that he had been unfaithful, that it was an act of infidelity, seemed not to bother him at all. He didn't even feel guilty about betraying his wife. Do you think this is acceptable? I took a mistress to create an heir. Of course, it's acceptable. You think the chairman will approve? The chairman will understand. After all, it's a boy. For a business executive, producing a male child is an essential duty. He'll praise me for being able to do that. Now our company's future is secure, so you'll be taking care of the heir. Make sure he's raised properly as a successor. You want me to take care of the mistress's child? Yes, of course. She's too young. It would be cruel to make her raise a child at her age. I might even make her the vice president in your place. After all, she's the one who bore the future heir. What century is this man living in? Richard swirled inside me, and I was consumed by an unwavering rage. She's pretty, isn't she? Quite different from you. My husband looked at her with a smug smile. Despite my anger, I couldn't take it out on her, a fellow employee. I just stared at her, then realized something. What? You see, her radiant beauty and allure as a woman. What are you even talking about? What do you mean, what? Oh yes, of her youth. Or her beauty. Don't you dare bully her. If she has a miscarriage, it'll be a disaster. My husband thought I was upset, but when he looked at her, his face softened again. Realizing this could lead to a fight, I decided to say it's nothing. Then my husband called her over to introduce her to me. Killy, I talked to the vice president about your pregnancy. Say hello. Hello. Ellie smiled sweetly, looked me straight in the eye, and said triumphantly, please divorce him. Sweat. Hey Kelly, that's going a bit far. But I'm carrying your baby, right? For our baby's sake, we should be married, right? The vice president's daughters are already grown. It wouldn't be a problem if you divorced. But our baby is still unborn. If his parents aren't together, it might not be good. I can't let that happen. That's true, but if we divorce, it might be problematic, since the vice president will be responsible for raising the baby. It'll be fine. You can still take care of the child. If you're rich, you can have a nanny, right? Let the child be raised by someone else. And then, I'll be the vice president, right? Let's do that. Well, you do have a point. If the child grows up without both parents and turns out bad, it'll be a problem for a future president. My husband seemed already under the mistress's thumb. I couldn't help but laugh inwardly at the interesting turn of events. Sure, now that your affair is out in the open, I might consider divorce. Really? You'll divorce me? See, I told you, if you talk to the vice president, she'll understand. Indeed, if the baby is really born, a divorce might be better. If you want him as your successor, that's what you should do. Exactly. The heir must be a boy. I'm glad you understand. My husband seemed pleased. If he had a tail, he'd be wagging it with joy. I couldn't sleep at night, worrying about the baby. Kelly said, stroking her belly. Yet she looked surprisingly well. Sleepless nights can be tough for a pregnant woman. Owning sickness too, right? Oh yes, but mine seems mild. Pregnant women can't drink alcohol, and it gets harder to move around as the belly grows. Take care. Thank you. Experienced mothers have different insights. Right, if you have any questions or worries, feel free to ask me anytime. Thank you, but I'm not worried about anything, Kelly said, walking away. My husband then thanked me. Thanks. Michelle, you really are my best supporter. So about the divorce, I'll file the divorce later. It's too much to handle today, emotionally. And please pack your things and leave. There's hardly any of your stuff here since we'd been practically living separately. After I walked away, my husband, unable to hide his glee, didn't realize this was just the beginning of his hell. He started coming to me with concerns about Kelly's health, thinking I accepted everything. I always responded kindly. She's having bad morning sickness and can't cook. Really? She's too tired to take a shower. But when I offered to take a shower with her and help, she refused. Why do you think that is? You didn't have such issues. It varies from woman to woman. Some can barely move. But I still want to help her to take a shower. That's something you two need to work out. Right. I wonder if she should stop working, considering the birth, but she wants to keep working. To me, I really want her to start preparing for the birth, but let her do as she wishes. You plan to make her vice president after she gives birth, right? She says she wants to focus on her work properly now. Yes, once it's born, of course. That's exactly why. For now, it's all about preparing for the birth. Overprotecting her might make childbirth difficult. Really? Yeah, that makes sense. Bitch, when I think about her, overprotecting her might not be good either. But still, I can't wait. I wish the baby would come soon. He waited eagerly for the birth, bringing up such trivial concerns daily. As 6 months passed, his anxiety grew. Why isn't her belly growing? You had a big belly. I'm worried. Pregnant women vary, you know. Even if they are really pregnant, not everyone shows a big belly. Is that so? But you had a big belly, didn't you? I'm worried whether the baby is growing well with such a flat belly like hers. Has she been to the doctor? Yes, she goes. And even when I offer to go with her, she asks me to prioritize work. She's admirable. What about her pregnancy journal? Pregnancy journal? What's that? She may have one. I've never seen it. And if she's going to the doctor, there should be ultrasound photos. Have you seen any? She gets them but throws them away. Really? That's an unusual pregnant woman not treasuring the first pictures of her child. Just according to her, those aren't real pictures. We treasure photos of a baby in the belly when you can take lots once it's born. I see. That's one way to think about it. I may expect these. I've never seen them. Dang. So, is it okay for her belly to be that small? Who knows? If she's really pregnant, it'll probably grow eventually. You keep making these concerning remarks. Are you jealous that she's carrying a boy? Did I say that? I guess it just slips out, talking about your mistress's pregnancy. Why did you marry her quickly? It's been a while since our divorce. Oh, yeah, right? We're thinking about a wedding party now. Why bother with a party now? Just register the marriage. She'll probably feel more at ease, and the baby will grow better. Oh, that might be why her belly isn't growing, due to anxiety. Listen, maybe. Though it sounded ridiculous, my ex-husband seemed to think there was some truth to it. The next day, hey, we've registered our marriage. I'm only waiting for the baby to be born. We'll have a grand wedding party. That's nice. Maybe it's because it's a boy. She's become quite demanding. What do you mean? Right after registering, she became very assertive. You registered yesterday, right? Yes, but she says she couldn't speak up before due to anxiety. Probably why her belly didn't grow. I'll endure her tough attitude until the baby is born. It's nothing for the sake of the child. Sure, the baby arrives safely. Why would you say that? Miscarriages are unlikely this far along. Sorry, I didn't mean to dampen your spirits. I'm sure there won't be a miscarriage. Then why say such things? Just because it's your mistress's child, don't talk nonsense. Just that even if men and go-go sex change, they can't have a uterus. So at best, it might be a phantom pregnancy. What are you saying? Are you suggesting she's a ma'am? Oh, you didn't know. I thought you didn't. That's why you're so happy. Kelly was born male. Kelly, a man. Don't be ridiculous. She's more feminine than any woman. The men who desire to be women often make extra effort, becoming even more feminine. That's ridiculous. Look around, no woman here matches her beauty. Just women born as women don't strive that hard. And nonsense. If she was male, we couldn't marry. Actually, you can. If she underwent gender reassignment, she'd be legally female. She wants to become a woman and pursues beauty to that extent. But she has breasts. She might have had an augmentation. Spritbitties and possible. I've seen everything. That's what I am telling you. But a sex change can't create a uterus? Then how could she be pregnant? But she had morning sickness. Anyone can pretend to be sick. She said she was pregnant. It's unthinkable for a pregnant woman to throw away ultrasound pictures. And why is her belly flat for this long? It's all too improbable. But you said some women don't show much. There might be women who don't show much during pregnancy, but normally you'd expect at least some belly, right? Especially if there's a baby. I believed her. Well, if there's love, gender doesn't matter, right? How can it not matter? She can't have children. There are women who are infertile. Just think of it as marrying someone who's infertile. I married her because I wanted children. If you want children that badly, why not consider a uterus transplant? What's that? There was a case in Sweden where someone had a uterus transplant and gave birth. But then it gets complicated about whose child it is. Why? If it's just a transplant, the baby-making part is with the partner, right? Well, normally, yes. But your mistress seems to be cheating with various men. Sweet nonsense are you spouting? That's impossible. Well, she's quite beautiful. And without a uterus, she can have all the fun she wants, just like someone else I know. Are you implying to me? Oh, you caught on? Birds of a feather flock together? Why can you say such things? I did some research. When you introduced her as your mistress, I remembered a rumor that she used to be a man. So if that was true, it would be quite interesting. It would be quite interesting. I thought. Why didn't you tell me then? What good would it do? It might just be a rumor. What if I accused her of being male and it turned out wrong? Could you forgive that? I guess not. That's why I didn't say anything. It's shameful for a business executive to make baseless claims. When did you find out? Maybe right after our divorce? I had my suspicions since you boasted about having a child with your mistress, and we divorced because of your infidelity. So, I had a detective agency investigate her. Then why didn't you tell me when you got the results? I'm married now. Well, I was waiting for this moment. Why would I tell you? Why? You wanted to see me suffer. That's a strange question. You love Kelly, right? Whether she's male or female shouldn't matter, right? You talk about your genes, but what's the use of spreading genes of a habitual cheater? I wanted a son. If there's love, that's all that matters. There's no point in being married. That's why I'm not stepping down as vice president. She wasn't pregnant after all. How can we be sure of that? It might all be your speculation. If you think so, that's fine. I guess she'll soon claim a miscarriage. That's to make her storyline. She's been saying she's pregnant with a non-existent child. She'll need to explain why there's no baby, right? Miscarriage is the only way out. That's a lie. This is all a story you made up. Rupturely, you're just upset about my mistress. Then why not look at this? What's this? Detective agency's findings, it states she was originally male and shows her entering motels with others. Even now, it's unclear if she's cheating. Back then, she definitely had 3 partners. A good thing she couldn't get pregnant. Otherwise, whose child would it be? Reaper, unbelievable. My ex-husband was shocked and speechless. I thought this was my revenge, but he posted the investigation details on social media. It caused a stir among employees and Kelly's friends, leading some to cut ties with her. All I could think was he really messed up. If Kelly stays quiet, it won't become a big issue. She probably still believes she'll be the president's wife and eventually vice president. But since my ex did something stupid, I wanted to add to the drama. I handed over his infidelity investigation results to Kelly and called her to my office. Your husband Bob's investigation results. Bob's? Kelly was shaking as she read it. Just then, Bob arrived. If you have business with me, come to me. I called Kelly too. It was more convenient. Convenient here? Why is Kelly here? What's that? You slandered me, saying I was a man and cheated. But look at you. You're the one cheating more than me. What's this all of a sudden? It's your investigation results. Talking trash about others, yet you're the one cheating all over the place. What kind of nerve do you have? Why, Mime? Not only did I investigate Kelly, but I also checked up on you. Why would you do that? Why, Mime? It's only natural. When your own husband is acting suspicious, you think something is up. Did you think I'd just ignore your affairs and not investigate? No way. If I'm going to act, I do it thoroughly and without fault. But why show it to Kelly? Since you saw Kelly's results, it's only fair Kelly sees yours. One-sidedness isn't fair. But I mean, I cheated, sure, but you cheated too, so it's the same, right? How is it the same? I only cheated with men. I only cheated with women. Lies. Your report has photos of you entering motels with men. Both men and women. You're indiscriminate. Anything goes for you. In terms of cheating, isn't it the same whether it's with men or women? Besides, I could accept you, originally being a man, because of my preferences. You should be thankful for my open-mindedness. How could I ever be thankful for that? I'm filing for divorce. I can't stay with someone like you. I don't want to be with a liar like you either. I'll be claiming alimony. Alimony? I'll sue you for defamation. Defamation? You posted slander about me on social media. That's defamation. First I must serve some jail time, and maybe you'll learn a lesson. Jail, you say? Shut up. Don't you say a word? To my surprise, Kelly did sue my ex-husband. She filed for alimony, but due to her own infidelity, she wasn't awarded any. However, she agreed to drop the charges if my ex paid her $600,000 as alimony and a settlement. My ex thought it was a high price, but considering his status, it was deemed fair. Reluctantly, he paid the $600,000. My exhausted ex-husband faced social repercussions at work. You were almost reported. Yeah, but that $600,000 hurt. Anyway, you're no longer the president because of the police matter. What do you mean? You're fired as the president? Goodbye. Go away. Be unemployed and kicked out of the company. He faced a dire situation. Serves him right. He owed me child support for our daughters, plus the money to Kelly. Struggling to make ends meet, he frantically looked for a job. Realizing he couldn't sustain his lifestyle, my ex-husband busily sought employment, relying on his connections. However, his past troubles with the police had spread everywhere, and he found no one willing to hire him. Bolton, he tried to start his own business, but as someone who had only ever been a company president within a pre-established framework, he couldn't accomplish such a major undertaking. Instead, he only accumulated a significant amount of debt. Consequently, he ended up in a dilapidated apartment with drafts coming through the gaps, a stark contrast to his previous lifestyle. That able to bear it, he came to me for help. Please help me. I'll take any corner of your kitchen. Leftovers are fine. What? You live with me? We were married, so it's okay, right? We're strangers now. What would the neighbors think? Besides, I'm now the president of that company. It's unthinkable for a president to live with an ex-husband. Don't say that. You brought this on yourself. I refused him. Despite the chaos at the company due to the president's arrest, we managed to stabilize it after I took over as president. My father, the chairman, hinted at remarriage, but I have no intention of marrying again. I finally found peace. Listen up. From now on, you've got to make do with an electricity bill of $14 and food expenses of just $2 a day. Don't spend a dime on cosmetics or clothes. Got it. My husband. So Tom yells it. I'm stunned by his unbelievable demands. This is totally doable. If you can't manage this, then you're just incompetent, impotent. As Tom makes these ridiculous demands, something inside me snaps. Right? Who on earth could live on such an amount? I decide to let him experience firsthand how unrealistic his expectations are. I'm determined to fight back. My name is Sally Johnson, a 32-year-old homemaker. After high school, I attended a vocational school and graduated successfully. I then worked for a company, but it was so toxic that I ended up suffering mentally. Therefore, after about 2 years, I resigned. Following year, I received unemployment benefits while looking for a job but couldn't find a good company. During that time, I discovered remote work and started freelancing as an engineer. I had a background in it, so it was my field of expertise. Initially, I took on simple and low-paying jobs, building up my experience. At first, the pay was just pocket money, so I worked part-time jobs alongside. After about a year and a half, I started earning as much as a regular employee's salary. Stuck at home working, I had no chance of meeting anyone, and before I knew it, I turned 30. That's when I met Tom. It was at a dear friend's wedding. The vows, the first bite of the cake, speeches by friends, letters to parents. Seeing my friends so happy made me feel joyful too. After the wedding, I attended the reception, where I happened to sit next to Tom. He seemed grumpy and cold at this lively event, which was my first impression of him. But then, a while into the party, he said, "Here, take this." He handed me a Band-Aid. Why? Your foot looks painful. Responding curtly, he glanced at my foot. I developed a blister from wearing heels I wasn't used to. Tom had noticed me limping slightly. Oh, thanks. It's no big deal. But why do girls wear such cumbersome shoes? What? But they go better with a dress, right? I wouldn't know about that. Tom laughed with a playful, yet gentle and endearing smile. I found myself irresistibly drawn to him, with his slightly mischievous but kind laughter. As the party wound down and I was about to leave, Tom, blushing to his ears, sheepishly asked, "Hey, you wanna exchange numbers?" "Sure," I replied, feeling shy but exchanging numbers with him. From that day, we started communicating frequently, went on dates, and began a relationship. Tom had always lived with his parents, so it became a routine for us to go to my apartment, where I lived alone. But before I knew it, Tom had moved into my place, and we inadvertently started living together. On our second anniversary, "Sally, will you marry me?" I was so happy I wanted to jump for joy. I immediately said yes. With our marriage, I quit my job. Originally, my husband was what is commonly referred to as a domineering husband. "Oh, I'll earn the money, you take care of the house. Men should work, and women should stay home." He's the type of person with that kind of mindset. I was hesitant to become a homemaker since I had just got my career on track, but both his mother and mine were homemakers. I didn't mind cooking and laundry, and I thought it would be nice to be a stay-at-home mom when we had kids. I figured I could return to work once the kids were older. We had a peaceful marriage. Without major fights, but one thing about Tom bothered me. He was extremely frugal. For example, he would say, "Don't buy anything from vending machines or convenience stores. They're too expensive," essentially forbidding purchases from such places. I could understand that, but he also insisted that furniture should be second-hand. Spending more is a waste, and so we furnished our new home mostly with used items. When I got a haircut after a year, he muttered, "You got your haircut. This woman costs so much money, and it's all my money." I was hoping for a compliment, but was dismayed by his first comment. I was disgusted by this remark. I didn't have any money of my own to spend, and I often felt envious of others. Then we faced a major challenge. We were unable to have children. "Why can't we have a kid?" Tom would angrily question. He became increasingly irritable each day, seemingly anxious about not having children. I wasn't as worried as him. I believed children were a blessing that didn't necessarily come to everyone, and if we couldn't have them, we could still enjoy life together, maybe travel every year. Children weren't everything. However, Tom's frustration grew, and he became more hostile towards me. He's with a frown and a look of suspicion. My husband said, "Isn't it your fault somehow? How could it be me? Why do you think it's my fault?" Most infertility issues are usually with a woman. Nowadays, it's about 50-50 between men and women. It's not necessarily my fault alone. "Hey Tom, if you really want kids, why don't we go to a doctor?" I was over 30 and didn't want to argue about who's at fault. If we knew the cause, we could seek treatment and maybe clear up some of the uncertainty. But Tom shouted, "It must be your problem. Go to the doctor by yourself. If we both go, it'll cost more for the tests." Reluctantly, I went to the hospital alone and got tested. However, the results showed no abnormalities. A few days later, I reported the test results to Tom. "I got tested, and there's nothing wrong with me. The doctor said to bring you next time." "Why did you come?" "A lot of men were there. It's not embarrassing," I said, thinking of my husband's desire for children, but he didn't take kindly to this suggestion. "Well, are you saying it's my fault?" "No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's a possibility, so let's check. There's no way it's my fault. It's probably because you're getting older. They say a woman's fertility drops sharply after 30. It's your fault, not mine." And I was chilled by his aggressive response. I'd never seen my husband so unreasonable. From then on, Tom's behavior started to get strange. I usually would start preparing dinner around 6 p.m. so it's ready when Tom gets home, but that day, due to being busy with errands and visiting my parents, I hadn't started cooking when he arrived. "What? It's this late already?" "Sorry, I haven't started dinner yet," I said, but he snapped. "What? Dinner's not ready yet. What have you been doing all day?" His sudden yelling made me flinch. "I'm sorry. You have it easy, just lounging around at home all day." "'Cause I'm not just lounging around. It's whatever. Don't make me irritated. If there's no dinner, I'm going out for a drink," he said and left. He didn't come home that night. From that day, I became more diligent. I made sure dinner was ready by the time he came home and did all the household chores without slacking. But no matter how hard I tried, Tom never returned to the kind husband he once was. Lately, he rarely came home, always using work or business meetings as excuses. Eventually, even started sleeping in separate bedrooms. Our relationship deteriorated to the point where we no longer had any physical intimacy, making the prospect of having children even more unlikely. Don't splurge with the money I make, and he wouldn't even let me have lunch with friends. When I wore an old outfit from the back of my wardrobe, he exploded, "Hey, when did you buy that outfit?" "I didn't buy any new clothes." "This is an old one." "Fine then, but don't you dare splurge on cosmetics or clothes. Remember your place as a homemaker." If you're going to say that, then I might as well go back to work. Fed up with his nitpicking, I retorted, "What? Making the woman work would make me look like a failure. Just do as you're told." He shouted and stormed back to his room, slamming the door. Tears welled up in my eyes as I watched him leave. Can this really be called a marriage? I felt like nothing more than a housekeeper without a salary or days off. A housekeeper who gets paid and has days off is treated far better. The idea of divorce crossed my mind many times. I tried to reach out, saying, "You don't need kids. Let's just go back to being a happy couple like we used to be." But he flew into a rage. "What are you saying? You're blaming me. Are you calling me defective?" I wanted to argue back that nobody was saying that, but I knew it would just lead to more yelling, so I held my tongue. Day after day, I did housework without thanks or recognition, just going through the motions. After about 6 months of living like this, unusually, my husband initiated a conversation with me. "Hey, how much is our electricity bill?" Tim, who always says save money, don't splurge, never really handled our finances, so he had no clue about our utility and grocery bills. I was surprised by his sudden interest and responded with a puzzled look. "What's that?" "Just tell me." "It's around $200. $200? That's way too high," he exclaimed, looking genuinely shocked. I couldn't understand why he was so shocked. "What? That's pretty normal, I think." "Sure, it's a bit higher in winter because of the heating." "That's too much for winter?" "When I'm at work, are you just wasting electricity by watching TV and running the air conditioner?" I always try to use less electricity during the day, often using a kotatsu, which is relatively cheaper to run. I hardly watch TV, and it was Tom who stayed up late playing games with the air conditioner on. Yet he seemed irritated after hearing about the electricity bill. "So, how much do we spend on food? Let's see. About $600. "What? That's way too much. How can it be that high without splurging?" Tom raised his voice again, his eyes widening in surprise. His astonishment surprised me even more. "What? Splurging? Are you serious? Don't you know that prices are skyrocketing? Vegetables and eggs are getting more expensive." "Quiet. I know prices are skyrocketing." "Are you making fun of me?" he exclaimed. "No, that's not it, but I'm ridiculing him. Honestly, I'm ridiculing him a lot. I never thought my husband would be so ignorant of the ways of the world. But of course, I didn't say that out loud. You're splurging too much on electricity and food. As a homemaker, you should manage better. Don't tell me you're also spending that much on clothes and cosmetics behind my back. These people must tidery. I haven't spent any money on my beauty expenses at all. I too wanted to dress fashionably and desired new clothes and cosmetics. However, knowing how stingy my husband is, he would undoubtedly complain if he found out I had bought such things, saying things like "with my money" or "for a mere homemaker like you." That's why I only bought the bare necessities and tried to save on groceries and electricity bills. Despite all that, I was so frustrated that I bit my lip. Then, my husband had said something outrageous. "Listen, I did not you be a homemaker so you could live in luxury. From now on, keep the electricity bill under $14 and the daily food expenses to $2. And don't spend anything on cosmetics or clothes." I was shocked by his unrealistic demand. That's impossible. Impossible. If you can't do it, it just means you're not capable enough. That's unreasonable. There was no way to live on such a meager amount. Who had lived with his parents until our marriage and never experienced living alone. He left all the financial management to me. He seemed to lack a basic understanding of normal expenses. I was thinking about how to explain this to him when he interrupted my thoughts. But he interrupted my thoughts. "What are you staying quiet for? This is why I hate homemakers who can't do anything. If you can't listen to me, feel free to leave this house. Sally, you've been doing great and saving a lot. Tom just doesn't understand. I calmed down my panting mother-in-law, asking, can you help me with something? She readily agreed, saying, let's show him what happens when you anger a woman. She was even more enthusiastic than me. That evening, Tom returned home at the usual time. Usually, when he texted I'm coming home, I would warm up dinner and unlock the door, but not today. Thinking the door was unlocked, Tom rattled the entrance a bit, then used his key to enter it. Hey, bystander Prams, why didn't you unlock the door? He yelled, stomping down the hallway. My husband opened the living room door and instantly let out a scream. Lecturings. I sat at the dining table with candles lit. I said quietly, welcome back. What are you doing? Why haven't you turned on the lights? You said to keep the electricity bill under $14, right? Since our house is all electric and there are basic charges, using any electricity would go over the limit. And the prayers, I canceled it. Well, canceled. Stop lying. What kind of nonsense is that? Tom fumed, clicking the light switch in frustration. Of course, I hadn't actually canceled anything. I just turned off the breaker. But Tom, clueless as he is, wouldn't realize that. Clicking it repeatedly won't change anything. You really canceled it? Why would you decide that on your own? Normally, you'd consult me. But I have a flashlight and candles. See, this way we can stay within the $14 limit, right? I said, feigning innocence. Tom sighed deeply, visibly frustrated. Fine, whatever. Hey, what about dinner? Dinner is ready. Here you go. Cakes on the dining table lit by candles. There was just 1 cup of ramen noodles. What the heck is this? Tom's eyes widened in shock again. Calmly, I replied, you said the food budget is $2 per day. So today's main dish is ramen noodles. They're delicious, right? Seeing my smile, Tom looked utterly appalled. Have you lost your mind? Forget it. I don't need dinner. I'm going to take a bath. He grabbed the flashlight and stomped off to the bathroom. Watching him go, the moment he turned on the shower, only ice-cold water came out. Ting! So cold. I heard a scream from the bathroom. What the hell? Tom banged into something. I told you it's all electric, right? No hot water. Didn't you know that? Chit. The sight of Tom biting his lip in frustration was almost comical. While we shivered from the cold, I quickly collected his flashlight and clothes and returned to the living room. Or from the bathroom. I heard him, all cold. As my towel. My clothes? Hey, Chili. Sally, and Simile, always relying on me for post-bath preparations, was clueless without his towel and clothes. He came into the living room, dripping wet. Hey, why didn't you come when I called? Where are my towel and clothes? He sneezed, chilled from the winter cold water. Well, closed. I threw away your old pajamas because they were tattered. I wanted to buy you new ones, but you said yesterday, no money for clothes or cosmetics. Auctions. I didn't buy pajamas or towels, thinking it might be a waste. Oh, but I do have this. Do you want it? I offered him a rag. It's a rag. Were you joking? Yes, said Doris. I only bought rags for the end-of-year cleaning, so this was all we had, I explained. To that, my husband replied, don't mess with me. There's a limit to how much you can mock your husband. He yelled, venting his anger all over the living room. Then, from the darkness, a deeper male voice spoke up. Vince, who's the one joking around here? At that moment, my mother-in-law flipped the breaker back on, filling the room with light. Tom, still adjusting to the sudden brightness, squinted towards the source of the voice. Mom, Dad, wait, the lights are on. As the lights turned on, my husband was confronted with his mother and father-in-law, arms crossed. He seemed unable to grasp the situation and panicked, still completely undressed. My mother-in-law, seeing Tom in his bare state, scolded, "You're the worst, showing us such an indecent sight," and threw his pants at him. Unfortunately for Tom, the buckle of the belt hit him right in his sensitive area. But she cried in pain, writhing on the floor. I couldn't help but let out a snicker at the sight. I realized it was too late to regret. The Lispachenry, you laughed, didn't you? Tom glared at me, still in pain. Then my father-in-law intervened. Don't look at Sally like that. I'm sorry. Tuppentime, scolded like a rebuked tuppy by his own parents, quickly dressed and sat down. We came to talk to you because we heard you were saying some nonsensical things. Bright gnomes, that's right. And look at this mess. I'm so ashamed as a mother. Talk about what? I'm just an incompetent housewife, so it's impossible for me to cut down. It's been a while. Tom's face turned pale as he saw my smiling mother. "Oh, you too." I'm an experienced homemaker, but even I can't live on the budget Tom suggested. Right. Exactly. Our foolish son here doesn't seem to understand that. Tom, can you explain how to manage within such a budget? I'm incompetent, so I don't know. Please teach us. Both my mother and mother-in-law approached Tom, looking furious. Tom was sweating profusely despite the winter cold. He seemed unable to stop sweating. "I'm so sorry." He finally apologized to me. Then we heard his phone ring from the living room. Realizing something was wrong, Tom looked alarmed. My father-in-law hurried to answer the phone and put it on speaker. "Hey, Tom, you called earlier, saying you were coming over, but you haven't arrived yet." "I'm getting tired of waiting." A sweet female voice came through. All four of us glared at Tom in unison. "No, it's not what it looks like." My husband, with his eyes darting around in confusion and agitation, remained unsettled. Meanwhile, from his phone, voices kept calling out, "Hello? Are you there? May I use his phone?" I took my husband's phone from my father-in-law and answered the call myself. "Hello, is this Kate?" "Who are you?" The woman's voice dropped in tone. "I'm Tom's wife. He's been a handful, hasn't he?" "Oh, I'm offering this worthless husband to you. Just so you know, I'll be expecting alimony from you too, so be ready when the paperwork arrives." I hung up abruptly. Tom, whether from cold or fear, started trembling uncontrollably. In the end, when confronted, my husband admitted that it was his mistress. Kate suggested these impossible financial limits. Kate, a 21-year-old junior from his hometown. It seems that when I suggested he go to the hospital and he was irritated, he started complaining about me to Kate. Before he knew it, she went from being someone he vented to a mistress. She was still living at home. Though claiming ignorance, she had told my husband, "I wouldn't waste money like your wife." She suggested unrealistic living expenses and insisted I could do it. I couldn't believe how gullible Tom had been. Neither of them had ever lived on their own, so a little internet research would have shown them how impossible those figures were. Who's the incompetent one now? With a broad smile, I said, "Tom, let's get a divorce, shall we?" and presented him with the divorce papers I had prepared. "Think it over, okay?" he pleaded. "Was it too late for that?" His pleas for me to reconsider the divorce, or at least waive the alimony, were cut short when my father-in-law gave him a firm slap. Tom covered his face, tears welling up in his eyes. "What are you doing? Stop this nonsense." The people under my father-in-law's stern gaze. Tom signed the divorce papers and agreed to pay the alimony in full. A week later, the divorce was finalized. Thanks to the intervention of my in-laws, it was decided that my husband would pay me a lump sum of $20,000 as alimony. I also received $14,000 from Kate, resolving everything amicably. My in-laws said, "We'll miss you, Sally, but go find happiness with someone better than our foolish son." I replied, "Please don't say we won't meet again. I've come to see you as my second parents. May I visit you again?" They were overjoyed, tears in their eyes. As for Tom and Kate, I neither know nor care what became of them. I don't want to know and have any interests. I only wish them the unhappiness they deserve. As for me, 2 years after divorcing Tom, I found a new boyfriend. He's kind and treasures me. I look forward to possibly remarrying and having children in the future, living happily ever after.